Hi, this is Dawn of StampTillDawn.com, and today I'm going to share a fun technique that I've used on this card to create the spooky clouds. I'm also going to show you a few more tips about this card, like how I did the fence. So we'll start with the sponging. You'll need a couple things to get started. One, you'll need a sponge. This is one of the greatest deals in the catalog. It's $1.25, so it's a fun little thing to add on to your order. And then I cut my sponge into segments, so I cut it into fourths, so then they end up looking like this. These are well used. I just washed them. They're stained, but they still work. And the one thing I always have to remind people, because inevitably somebody does it, you just want to use the ink on this part. People will always try and turn them and use the other parts of it, but then your fingers are just end up in the ink. So you're only going to use this segment in the ink. And then if you have nails, acrylic nails or long nails, sometimes it's nice to go ahead and put a little binder clip on it, and then that way it gives you a little more room between your nails and the stamp pad. So you'll need a sponge, and then you're going to make your own stencil to do this. So what you'll do is you'll take just a piece of cardstock. You can also use acetate or like transparency to do this. And you're going to just cut some kind of cloud shapes. So you'll want to do some small, some big, some taller. So just kind of, and don't worry too much about it. I've done this a million times and it's always worked no matter what. So you can't do it wrong really. So there's my little cloud shapes there. And I've pre-done a couple of them ahead of time. I'm going to show you two different ones. So I'm going to use the white one here on my sunset cardstock. I'm using the slate ink because I want it to look that spooky gray color. And then I'm just going to dab my sponge in my stamp pad, and then I'm going to sponge these clouds on here. So first of all, you might be tempted to go straight like this, but actually you want to angle your template, and you'll start your sponge on the template and go off of it just a little bit. I'm going to try to do this a little darker than I did on my card, just to make it real obvious for you on the camera, because it's kind of a subtle look. So yeah, I did a little darker for you, so hopefully you can see that. Then now you don't want to have this big one in the same place, so you might scooch it over a little bit and angle it the other way, just to kind of give some, so that your clouds are a little bit different, so they're not all the same. Again, I'm using a really heavy hand on this, so it'll show up on the camera. See how, and then you can just move it over, and I can do just this part here. And the trick is really to angle it and adjust the areas. So now I'm going to go back and line this up like this, just to get a different look. So we'll do one more here. So that's your spooky clouds by doing it on an orange cardstock, an orangish color with the gray. You can get those spooky colors that are perfect for Halloween. But the same technique can be used, you know, for a nice summer card or any kind of clouds that you want to do. So I'll show you the same thing on a piece of white cardstock with, I used a pink one to hopefully help it show up a little bit. And I'm using Glacier ink. So, and you'll notice this template's just a little bit different, so the clouds are going to look different. So again, you want to do it at an angle here and just kind of sponge it on there. You can do it as light or as dark as you want, depending on what your project is. And you can put them really close together, or you can have them farther apart. Trick is just to kind of make them all a little bit different. Don't use the same exact angle every time. And there you go. You've got a nice little cloudy sky. I can't tell if you can see that. I'm going to try moving that a little bit closer to the camera. Okay, so for my workshop, we were using the August stamp of the month, which is this crazy cat, and he has the Halloween hat and the mask. I actually put a little bit of liquid glass on his mask and on the buckle for the hat. And let me show you a little bit more about the kits, how I put them together, and the fence here. So what I did for the fence was I took a piece of black cardstock and I ran it through the Cuttlebug with the wood grain Cuttlebug thing. And then I took white daisy pigment ink, and I'm not sure if this is the one I used, and a sponge dauber, and just kind of rubbed a little bit of white on there. And now I'm doing it with a heavier hand so you guys can see, but my intent was to kind of have some highlights show up on here, that maybe like it was like the moon shining on the fence. So I had a piece like this. I cut it 2.5 inches and then a little bit more than a 1/2 inch wide. And I put those pieces in the kit. So when they got their kits, it was like this. And they had their pieces inside here. So you can sponge, they could sponge the background. Got it black here. You sponge your background. And then to make your fence, I just had them in there like this, but you could just sit there with your scissors and kind of cut these. And I told them don't make them all perfect, because the whole point was to make it a jagged looking fence. So you trim off all your little tops there, and then it's really just about assembling everything. Kind of lay it on here, stick your other little fence posts back behind it, stamp and color your cat, and add your moon and your bat, and there you go. So it was a quick and easy card. The thing that was most time consuming was to do the coloring for the cat. So I hope you enjoy the new spongy. Oh, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I used our new shimmer brush on the moon to give it just a little bit of a shimmer. I'm addicted to that thing. So that's some techniques on sponging your cloud backgrounds, that you can use that technique over and over again.